Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, as always. It's Katie. And Clay's with me as always as well. We were a little late because we had parenting duties.
Yes, we did. Abby went out for a small drive. I just hit my mic. I apologize. Abby went out to do like a couple errands, and I was like, okay, remember I recorded at 7. She's like, oh, you have plenty of time. And it was like 6:35, and I was like, hey, I recorded at 7, and I didn't get a response, but I did a quick check on location, and she was already heading this way. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then like 10 minutes passed. I'm like, she should already be here. And like sometimes when I look at the location, she's like right at the front door. So I'm like, I don't know why I even looked. But I looked anyway, and she had only moved like what looked like a block. And I was like, oh crap, there must be a lot of traffic. And there was. So that's that. And also, I survived my wisdom teeth pulling, even
Yes,
after Katie tried to scare me to death and get me paranoid and scared of the dentist.
I just need everybody to know that he sent me a gift on Saturday and was like, the pain medication is wearing off. You were right.
Oh, it was the worst thing ever. It like so when it happened. I know this is a side tangent. Being awake during that whole experience was wild
Mhm.
because it's not like they like keep you awake but you're a little loopy. No, you're awake and everything's just numb.
Mhm.
So that was wild. I like I did feel it when they were pulling the second one, the bottom one. So they actually had to continuously give me some more numbing agent. They actually had to crack the bottom one in half, like old school, like chisel, and like just hammer
Yep.
it down and then like snap it. That was wild. Um, but yeah, we had that going on, and then I was numb like for 4 hours after the procedure, and I'm like, Katie was totally wrong. I don't feel anything. It's and then I slowly started to feel from my chin all the way down to like my earlobe, and I was like, oh my god, this is the worst feeling I have ever felt in my entire life.
Mhm.
And then I got some really nice pain meds, and everything was better. Um, so today is my first day without them. I didn't feel the need to have pain meds. And my procedure was done on Saturday. So I'm
That's good.
actually pretty proud of myself that like because everyone's like, oh, like this is the stuff that you can get addicted on and da da da. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna slow down on these pain meds then. But yeah, I feel great. I feel good. It feels a little weird like knowing that I don't have any teeth there. And so I continuously like have my tongue just like
Uh-huh.
you know. Um but yeah, I'm fine. Uh we have normal news as far as Star Wars goes. But we do have a special announcement that I do want to go ahead and say prior to our review today, because of course this week is going to be a book review. But I want everybody to know about this big thing that me and Katie have been planning for a little bit. So is it okay if I go ahead and say it, or do you want to wait?
Go for it.
All right. So guys, joining us live on November 13th. Mark your calendars, people. Okay. Stephen Barnes is going to be joining us for a questionnaire on Glass Abyss. And of course, just his time with Lucasfilm and his writing process. It's going to be so much fun. Katie and I have had the opportunity to speak with him, and We gave him a couple dates, and we're like, okay, we can do a regular recording, and it can drop at a later date,
Hmm.
and da 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 da. And he was like, actually, I've actually done a couple lives before, so I'm used to that. Let's do that one. That makes me more comfortable. And I was like, cool, let's do it. So he's going to be joining us November 13th for the Star Wars Alliance live show. So mark your
Yes.
calendars, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like always, it's going to be so much fun.
Yes. Very excited for this. So if you have any questions that you'd like Clay and I to ask,
Oh,
like
yeah,
feel free to
yeah.
submit them. You know,
100%. If you have any
you might
questions,
get an answer.
yeah, about his prior book, which I am going to attempt to speed read in the next 2 weeks. Uh, it is, oh shoot, you sent it to me,
The
and we talked about
Cestus
it before.
Deception.
Yes, yes, Cestus Deception. I will attempt to get that read, uh, if not
Same
half of
here.
it, at least.
Yeah.
So, Katie, where do you want to go with first with the regular weekly news?
So we have another update on the new Jedi Order, aka the Rey Skywalker film. Um, we have changed writers again. Um, Now, of course, this is a process in Hollywood. We've talked about it before with the last couple writer drops. Obviously, you don't like seeing this many writer changes. And it's not something that's very typical. Like you probably see like 4 or 5 script renditions before like getting like a confirmed one.
Yeah,
It's more publicized because it's Star Wars. We repeat this every time.
one hundred
It's big
percent.
news because it's an IP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It still
we
doesn't look good.
it doesn't. It doesn't. We had a small discussion about this. Me, you, and of course Travis Snell in our Star Wars Alliance chat, in regards to like, is this a sign of doom for this film? And I was saying like, oh, the announcement, because we are going to talk about this. Apparently, Daisy Ridley was like teasing some stuff like, oh, but there's good news on the rise, but it was kind of like after and before
Hmm.
this news had hit, so people were like, well, this can't be the news. Like she couldn't be teasing bad news. That's weird. So there has
Yeah.
to be something good out there. But I looked at it in a different light. And I don't know if I necessarily will say this is my actual opinion on the quote unquote success of Star Wars, but I said, here's one thing you can technically look at. When you look at the success of Star Wars, look at the space between episode 6 and 1 and 3 and 7. And what? Bleh, I can't even read my own typing. Between 6 and 1 and 3 and 7. So basically, look in between the amount of time that it took between each trilogy. Each trilogy, in its own right, was successful, regardless of what your opinions are on each film. It gathered so much success to want to continue forward. Correct. So
Hmm.
when looking at it that way, uh, I even said I would hate for Lucasfilm to look at this way, but it's how I have to rationalize until they get their shit together. That's basically what I'll do. I'll be like, okay, well, first trilogy was successful, and they didn't start making more Star Wars films until the 1990s, and then
Yep.
that was successful enough to the point where we didn't get new films until 2014 or 2016. I can't remember, but like there was huge gaps in between these trilogies, and so in retrospect, you can't be like, "Oh, Star Wars is such like a failure and it's
Yeah.
never going to come back," and all of these other things, because history has proven that that's not true, right? So it's
It's
one
really
way.
not. Like you can't say that Disney's failing Star Wars when they have just as many, if not more, books publishing yearly than Lucasfilm did.
Yeah.
And these books, you can say all you want that these books are not canon and that Disney doesn't respect it. Disney's brought plenty of these book characters into play.
Yeah.
So they're more respected than Legends ever was really as canon material. Um and they've still put out almost as many movies as Lucasfilm did without Disney, and more TV shows
Yeah.
in less amount of time. We just had the 10th anniversary of Disney buying Lucasfilm. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was literally 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Like, 10 years, we've had a bunch of books, we've had 5 movies, um, and we've had 6 TV shows somewhere in
With
that range.
and you have to think about like freaking Young Jedi Adventures has multiple seasons.
Yep.
Resistance had
Clone
multiple
Wars
seasons.
revival.
Clone Wars revival, like all of these, like it has been a success. Again, regardless of one's own opinion, you look at the numbers, you look at the dollar signs, it has been successful. But what I do want to ask you is we saw this post from John Roca. He had a source that that pretty much told him this about the writer Stephen Knight a while back. So far back to it being August 23rd is the date that he mentioned in his tweet. And this individual, again, not being named and it's not even named in his post, uh, said a couple of things. And I want to know your opinion on if this means that like, oh, you have to get it right as far as the Rey Skywalker movie, or is there too many hands in the cookie jar here? So this is the message that Roca showed on his post of this scooper telling him what's going on. Stephen Knight has passed in at least 4 versions of the Rey Star Wars movie script. He may have passed in even more. Lucasfilm found issues with all of them, and I've heard he's just about done with the whole project. And I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves. Non-stop notes and issues with where the story goes from the higher ups.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is the entirety of the Lucasfilm exec board diving into this process, or is it just Filoni?
Yeah.
Like, that would be a question that I would have, because Rocha's source uses higher ups, but I mean, we know there's the story group, but then there's Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I would be curious. Obviously, we're never gonna know. It's not gonna happen. Obviously, if you have this many writer changes, and especially with this, um, it doesn't look good for Lucasfilm. But is it also a question of, hey, Lucasfilm has just put out like average, so people are going, okay, we can just give you average. But Lucasfilm is looking for like a very high quality script. Like, you could go both ways with this. You could.
And this is why, like, this is what makes me a little worried, though, to be completely honest. When it comes to Star Wars, and me and Travis Snell have argued about this so many times when it comes to things like Batman. But in regards to Star Wars, you have this ideal. I guess what would the right phrasing be? Look at what Star Wars could be, right? It is
Mhm.
space, ships, lightsabers, some sort of clone trooper, stormtrooper type of ordeal, Sith and Jedi and light versus dark, and you have like all of the small pieces of Star Wars, and you just make a Star Wars film. But there's some people that are going into Star Wars looking for an Oscar worthy script.
Yeah.
In my mind, I don't think that can happen. I know that like people will be like, "Oh, well that's not true. It can totally happen." And I guess you're right, but I'm not
It
watching
did
Star
happen, and I'm
Wars.
going to tell you why. Ryan Johnson, Last Jedi. That is the peak Star Wars script right there.
I would say yes. But a lot of people
Obviously
would say
didn't win
no.
any awards, but yes. I think this is going into the whole debacle with the, hey, we need fan approval. We need to have the fan voting board.
I forgot about that. It still makes me icky. Like just thinking about the fan board and how all that's gonna. I hope that is dissolved. I hope that is silently dissolved. Also, just want to give a shout out to Andrew in the chat. He is saying, "Hey, I bought this trilogy earlier this year thanks to a recommendation from Katie."
Did I
Talking
give you
about
that
the
recommendation? I don't know if I gave you that recommendation, Andrew, but I will take the credit. um,
he
I
also
might have
says,
said I might
"Go
have
ahead."
said that this was the first canon books, so that might be a reason to pick it up.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
I don't know.
Uh,
I've not recommended this to anyone.
we've had a couple strong opinions on this trilogy, but Andrew also says, "I love The Last Jedi, and I'm not afraid to say it." That's good. I am proud of anybody who is not afraid to say that The Last Jedi is a good movie because it is a good movie.
Yes.
But in regards to that, like I'm not looking for an A24 script for Star Wars. You know?
Yeah.
It's just it's not there. It's not what the genre is. It's not what the IP is.
Mhm.
And
And
I don't know.
um we talked about it with Book of Boba Fett. Not everything has to be good, or not
Yes.
everything has to be great. It
Yeah,
needs
that
to
was the
be
thing. That was
good.
it. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be great, because if you always have fantastic things, then you will never appreciate the singular parts that,
Yeah,
like,
and you will be spoiled to the point of when there is just a good show or a good movie, you'll think it's crap. And I don't appreciate that. I don't think that's great for uh TV, film, anything. Like it's somewhat happening to video games also. Like
mm-mm.
there's moments where you can be like, "Oh, this is a good game," but because it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of AAA games and everything else, people think it's bad, and I don't think that's true at all. Uh, but I I hope that in this light of finding out that Knight decided to walk away because of so many notes on his script, I almost want to say like why don't you go with somebody that you've already worked with? It it ain't broke. Don't fix it, you know?
And I think Ryan Johnson really understood the process for the Jedi in interpreting everything appropriately.
Yeah,
The problem, not fan reaction, because I'm not saying it was fan reaction. The loudmouth haters,
yeah,
um, who can't
unfortunately.
appreciate a decent romance. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
Andrew says
Andrew.
this book trilogy is decent, not great, but not horrible either. He said also it's the anniversary of Disney buying Star Wars. Yeah, we already talked
Yeah,
about that.
we mentioned that literally I think right before you jumped into the chat
Yeah.
actually. Uh But yeah, so in regards to the Rey movie, Daisy Ridley discussed the new Jedi Order movie and hints that it will be the first in a series.
So, yes. So this makes me think, because she also talked about how she was excited about the changes that were coming and everything, with what she's seen for the movie and everything. And so this makes me think that maybe Rocha, is it Rocha?
Roka.
Roka.
Yeah.
Roka's Roka's tweet, he may have been right on the timing, and so Lucasfilm had kind of already gone in another direction, but
Hmm.
then it's just now coming out.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's just now leaking. So, like I don't think she's going to be excited about a writer leaving a movie unless he was just awful, like, and was like, because I mean, there really is, like, people want to see a female writer write Rey just to kind of see what can happen. I mean, we kind of got like, because we know Carrie Fisher edited The Last Jedi. Like,
Yeah.
she and Brian Johnson were constantly doing edits on the movie. So, like, but we want to see a female's take on it because there's so much at stake with her taking on an iconic name for the universe of Star Wars. So to kind of have somebody that can handle that pressure but rate the female gaze on that, I think will be
Hmm.
super important. So I hope that that's somebody who's being roped in, even though the names that we've heard taking over the writer spots for this movie are very iconic writers. I do think it's important to get a female look at this, knowing our main character is the first main female Jedi.
100%. Um, I would be decently like I think I would be more intrigued. She had some hits, some misses, but over at WB, Christina,
Yeah, Batgirl, Flash.
uh, I don't know what her name was. Hudson, Christina Hudson is her name.
Mhm,
Um, she apparently had some, like, from what I had seen in her filmography, again, some misses, some hits. A lot of people loved Birds of Prey. I thought it was
mhm.
okay. I loved Bumblebee. She did Bumblebee. Like, so I think that there is potential there. I would love to see her on Ray. But also one thing that I would also really be interested in, I don't know. I mean, DC is doing it with their writers room and bringing in comic book writers.
Mhm.
Um, I would love to see Alyssa Wong
Mm.
get into
Mhm.
Hollywood and jump on that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all, I'm munching.
I am super jealous because although I feel up to probably eating anything, my gums are still kind of raw and I can't eat anything crunchy or sharp or spicy.
So this is my ask. I need Perfect Bar to sponsor me because these are like the best protein bars and they're so soft. Now, I think technically they're a meal replacement because they're like 330 calories.
Woo!
But like when I have a 6-month old who is very clingy at the moment, like a bar is something that you need. So,
Yeah,
yes, Perfect
100%.
Bar, please sponsor the podcast because I eat these like every other podcast. Uh,
So I going back to the idea of this being a trilogy, or I didn't even it didn't say trilogy, but it said first in a series. Uh, we
yes.
can almost assume a trilogy just because
Yeah.
it's Star Wars. Do you think the first movie is a passing of the torch?
I mean, right now it's supposed to be 15 years after Rise of Skywalker. So it could legitimately be. I don't know how you don't take advantage of Ridley, who absolutely wants to be involved in the franchise right now. I mean, she came out and you didn't even have a script. Like, that's something Snell talked about, is like, you put Daisy Ridley on stage, you didn't even have a script. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so
That's it's unheard of in almost any other franchise and or just any movie. Um,
these actors, my point is though, is these actors want to be here.
yeah,
Like, yes, you could easily go with, okay, we're going to pass the torch. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next generation. But why would you do that when Daisy wants to be here?
I agree. I agree. And like there's talks right now of like them making another Tomb Raider and other people are in line of it. And somebody, I don't know if it was Daniel RPK or somebody else, but I saw somebody say Daisy should have that role as
Mm-hmm.
Tomb Raider, Laura Croft. And I was like, that would be amazing. Like I think she would really hit it off in more if she was headlining action films like Star Wars and like Tomb Raider and stuff like that. But like, why not just have a Ray movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not going to say uh because I totally want there, you know, the whole idea of two people of color are also going to be leads in this film. I don't want to cut them out. Like I don't want to cut them out of this deal of like possibly having the torch passed. But if this is the route that they're going, I would be if I was Daisy's agent, I'd be saying, "Hey, Ray Skywalker Disney Plus series in between 9 and this new film, just to see
Yeah.
how she got there. You know, give
Yeah,
her more of the limelight."
I think the best bet for that honestly is to go animated. Because that gives you a lot of opportunities to bring other people in, because Daisy, as much as she wants to be with Star Wars right now, she's also doing a lot of A24 type films.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Magpie,
She
um
recently had something hit Disney Plus, or was it Hulu?
it
Uh,
was I think it was the woman who swam across the sea, the story of the first woman who swam the English
yeah,
Channel.
yeah,
Um So, and I've heard very good things about that. I've heard very good things about Magpie. So she's doing a lot of good work there, and I know she's already got like two other films that she's supposed to be filming next year. Um, so I think if you go animated series, you could still bring Daisy in potentially to voice. Um, but because I think this is going to be a like true, hey, let's set up the Jedi Order kind of thing,
yeah.
or the new Jedi Order. So you need an animated series, means that you don't need as many high risk things to catch people's attention.
Hmm.
Um so I think movie kind of, you're leaning towards, like, we're going to talk about this, but like Palpatine feels like there's a darkness in the unknown regions. So you don't even have to bring the Sith back for that. You can bring back the Yuzan Vong, like out
Yeah.
of Legends, or something like talk about Peridia, like what comes out of another galaxy, like, so, which I think Ahsoka is going to tackle that, but like that's just another example.
Well, like, and also I've been thinking, like, I don't like when other franchises do this because it feels like, oh, well, there was so much timeline between this project and this project, and that didn't happen. But we know it's because these are the most relevant things right now. Like, I was even thinking, like, are they going to bring the Nameless into, like, or the Drengir into this Ray story, right? Uh,
Mhm. Yeah, I think we
And
talked about that.
yeah, and like in our minds, we're like, oh yeah, that's so cool because it's High Republic and it's something that we really enjoy. But it is something that I'm like, oh well, why didn't Luke deal with any of this stuff? Or why didn't, anybody from, uh the prequel trilogy? And we're learning more about that, with each going
Yeah.
step and how that is resolving. So the more closer we get to the ending of that, and plus the prequel trilogy, it makes sense why it's very dormant and not,
Yeah, because
actually
it was like
happening.
it was spread out anyways. So you have like 150 years before phase one, then you have
Yeah,
150 years. So like it kind of makes sense if you're spreading it out.
yeah,
Like, I mean, as everything says, if you don't learn from history, you're always doomed to repeat it. And so with the Jedi Order being wiped out and there's no data on the Nameless anymore, not that we know they're gonna keep data on the Nameless,
yeah,
but and with the idea of okay, maybe we're gonna explore the unknown regions.
yeah.
So,
I would enjoy it. um
but speaking of sequel trilogy things happening, we have another Darth Vader comic coming. I mean, Kylo Ren.
yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah, no, like I love this. I love the art, by the way. Like, I think
Yes.
the cover for the announcement, in my mind, is probably the best Kylo Ren has been drawn
Yeah.
since his appearance in Force Awakens. Like, I've seen him drawn in coloring books. I've seen him in the adaptation comics for all the other sequel trilogy books. This is by far the best looking Kylo Ren, and it
Mhm.
looks so ominous, and it's just like, oh, I want it, I want it. And you're not wrong. It is a Vader comic. It is titled "The Legacy of Vader,"
I
which
just
I
somebody tweeted about it. Oh, I think it was Jordan with Cinelinks.
uh huh.
Um he tweeted, he was like, so we really can't go like a main run era without having Darth Vader in a title. Like we just can't.
No, it's the Batman effect. If you look at anything in DC, when they want something to sell, they put Batman on the cover, and not just the character. They will put his name on the cover, even if it's an Action Comics book or a Green Lantern book or a Blue Beetle book or a Supergirl book. If there is a Batman character that is going to be featured, they make his name, his or her name, in big print on the cover. It's the Batman effect. It sells. And we know that there has never been a bad Vader run.
Mhm.
I genuinely believe Darth Vader for Marvel is their Batman book. So if you're going to sell books in the Star Wars like print imprint of Marvel Comics, you put Darth Vader's name on it. Boom.
So when they go to tackle Anakin in the prequels, because we know at some point, or I say we know that there's gonna be some point where they do a main run of Obi-Wan training Anakin and like their adventures over the 10-year span between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Is it gonna be the rise of Darth Vader?
I think because again, like they've had Obi-Wan runs, but I don't know
Yeah.
how well they've sold. So I could see it being it's the main title Obi-Wan and then the subtitle Rise of Vader.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that being an actual title at Marvel.
Yeah. So this comic, The Legacy of Darth Vader, like Charles Soule said at New York Comic Con, which we talked about last week, because we theorized on this, and you said Darth Vader, and I was like, but you can't go forward with Darth Vader. I mean, like, he's dead. So this is a look back at some characters that Charles Soule has done, and a look forward at some characters that Charles Soule has done, because Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited about this because I trust Soul with all my heart. And so this is going to tackle Kylo Ren learning more about Darth Vader and his rise and fall as a Sith Lord. He's going to be going to Mustafar, and presumably, I would imagine we're going to figure out how he gets to know about Exegol and the holocron map thing that's on Mustafar, because that's where he's at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker. So,
That's gonna be so fun.
mhm.
In all honesty, when you're looking at the idea of him going into the idea of like, okay, I'm doing this. Like if I'm gonna go and do this, I have to go, all the way. And being manipulated by Sidious and like all of this stuff, like it's gonna be so
Yeah.
demented and it's gonna be so good. I can't wait until he goes to Mustafar and he has one of those like weird Sith visions that Darth Vader had. Like
Yeah.
I,
I
I'm
people
I can
people were
imagine
wondering if
it
he's gonna
being
find Momin's mask from Soul's Run.
ooh. I could see it put like having a small little cameo in there, like
Yeah.
just having it there. But I could definitely see Soul like mirroring that moment
Yeah.
with that Sith vision and telling the history of Anakin. I can see that kind of mirroring with Kylo and like kind of manipulating him to be like, oh, you're destined for all this greatness and da da da. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think that'll be really, really fun.
And we will have to tackle Soul's Darth Vader run and the Rise of Kylo Ren next year.
Yeah.
To kind of lead up to that. So make sure let us know when you guys want us to put that into the schedule. Because this comic, the first issue, will be out in February. So that's important to mention.
As far as other news, one thing that we did skip when it came to like movie stuff, we see that Mandalorian and Grogu has wrapped filming and is still on track to release on May 22nd, 2026. And they say still on track because it was around that same time we got a massive hit of like what all is releasing in that
Yeah.
same bubble. We're still
Like
seeing
Avengers.
Avengers and is it well no what else is Supergirl is there as
Supergirl.
well, and there was one other one that is I can't remember what other IP it was, but it is going to be a very congested summer. So I am going to say it. Move. Move to your
Yeah.
normal December Star Wars month. That's what I say.
I think the issue though with December 2026 is Avatar 3.
Really?
Is it Avatar? When is Avatar 3 supposed to come out? That might have been 2027.
I know at one point, which again, I am forever going to be reminded that I owe Travis a pizza after making that stupid bet that Sonic 3 was going to make more money than Avatar 3. And then Avatar 2 made $1 billion freaking dollars.
Um,
Such a stupid bet.
so it's actually, because I remember this now, we talked about Mando and Grogu moving up to December 2025, but Avatar 3 is December 2025.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's why.
Okay. So
Um,
yeah, so December 26th is available.
yeah.
I think because correct me if I'm wrong, the original schedule had the 2 Star Wars films in 2026,
Hmm.
and you know, I'm not going to say that like, oh, clearly Mangold's and Ray Skywalker movie is going to not make that. Who knows?
Hmm.
But there's an open slot right there. Just move it. Be safer about it. I
Yeah.
like, even if this is going to be a recap, which I still hope it's not. You still want it to be successful
Well,
because
I don't think it's gonna be. Yes, you want it to be successful. I don't think it's gonna be recap anymore. Um.
but even
By the
even
way,
still, the Mandalorian, technically, when you look at the schedule, Mandalorian and Grogu is the first Star Wars film back in theaters.
yeah,
It needs a large pop. So like, don't squander and just let it die in the midst of all these other hit blockbusters that are coming out.
yeah. By the way, because I'm seeing this on my Twitter feed, we forgot about this too. Mandalorian season 3 and Ahsoka season 1 will be out on 4K Steelbook December 3rd.
Yes,
So
those steelbooks look so clean. By the way, they look great.
yes, they do. I'm gonna be waiting for them to go on sale because I do want to make sure that I get these.
Uh huh.
Uh, because I like having the hard copies of things. Um, but I'm waiting for them to go on sale. I don't need a steelbook. That's the thing. I just need a regular Blu-ray or like whatever 4K. Like I don't need a steelbook. I'm fine without a steelbook. Just give me the physical piece, please.
Hey, I mean, we're lucky that we're getting these to begin with, considering
Correct.
their streaming shows, and it's very unpopular for some reason to not put streaming shows on physical media. It's weird.
Oh,
But uh is that everything as far as the
that is
news
everything.
goes? All
That is
right.
everything.
Well, if that is everything, we're going to go ahead and jump into this Aftermath Empire's End review. Kate, I told you at the beginning, well, even before we started recording, I made a boo boo and didn't finish the book, but I read the last part of the Wikipedia. I was able to catch up where I was as far as the audiobook, and I read the rest. Of course, the dramatic effect of the audio version is not there, but
And he
alas,
will finish it later. I
I
had to
will.
suffer through this, so he's gonna finish it.
It's 30 minutes. I'm probably gonna finish it like before I even start editing. Like, that's probably what I'll do tonight. But Katie, you said, because you're hilarious. I nearly spit out my drink at your post the other day because
You
I
mean
just I
yesterday?
yeah I just see this notification on my phone. I'm like, what's going on here? And Katie's like, oh, you want to know how bad we think this trilogy is? So bad that we forgot we were reviewing it. And I mean, she's not wrong because we had a small text exchange that was, hey, don't forget we have to do this. Crap, I forgot we had to do this. Okay, well, I'm just reminding you, this is how much I forgot. And we're showing each other downloading the episode or downloading the audiobook onto our phones. Katie already had hers automatically downloaded. It was a whole thing. And then I'm like,
Y'all,
okay,
and like typically I'm very excited. Like I know I've got mom brain, and so like part of that was the mom. Part of this was the mom brain.
yeah.
Part of this was the man, I really don't want to finish this.
Yeah,
Um,
it's because we've talked about these characters seemed interesting in writing as far as like if you take the character bio and you see this character, you're like, oh, that character could probably be pretty interesting in a Star Wars story. And then they put him in a Star Wars story and it wasn't interesting. That like it just kind of it's like uh why? Like
yeah.
why do this? Um I will say I still enjoy oh shoot, I always forget his name.
Mark
Uh
Thompson?
no. The actual character in the
Sinjir.
book, Sinjir.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I still really like that
I
character.
love Sinjir.
He grew a lot from the very first page that he was, introduced to the
Yeah.
last. Guys, small spoiler alert, there's a moment where he is shot in the head and like I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, I teared up. I was like, I knew he made it through, but it was still the idea of like, wait, is
Well,
he about to die?
so
Like,
here's the thing, Katie. My ADHD brain and having to listen to everything at times two speed just to keep up with my brain, I hear it at a normal pace, but I know I can also still hear it sped up. So it was like
mhm.
and then I'm like, wait, hold on. I pressed the 30-second rewind twice and listened to it again. And I was like, okay, I wasn't imagining things. He got shot in the head. What's going on? And then like he was still running around and throwing fruit and stuff, and then it finally explained how it like freaking what's the phrasing I'm looking for? The blaster like seared itself, like basically,
Yeah.
and he was able to survive. But still, like I'll give I even forgot the writer of this
Chuck
freaking book.
Wendig.
Chuck. Yeah, I'll give Chuck credit for that. Like he got me attached to a character, one singular character. I'll say that enough to be like, holy crap! Like I care if this person lives or dies by the end of this book. So, yeah.
For me, this one was a lot better than the other two.
Hmm.
That's not saying much because I still couldn't get attached to Nora. Nora pissed me off so much.
Nora, I feel
And
like,
I don't feel like that's the intent of her character either, is to piss you
but
off.
it no, it's not to piss you off, but there is also like there's not a whole lot there to get me to be like really invested in her though.
Hmm.
You know? Uh
Yeah.
it felt very stereotypical as far as the love story goes with her husband and the uh the constant like, oh well, I can't tell my son what I'm doing because then the
Hmm.
empire will know what I'm doing. And
Like, if we hadn't been reviewing this for the show, when she takes off in the escape pod without telling anybody what she's doing, and
yeah,
she's like, fly the ship, Timon, like, fly it into a bunch of blockade, like an imperial blockade of the planet, and let, like, you take over. I'm gonna go get in an escape pod now. If we had not been reviewing this, I would have DNF'd it right there because that's not something that like a mom would do for their kid. The mom goes, "No, I'm the best pilot on this ship. I need to get us out of here."
yeah. Especially when there was moments in both other books where like she did take the reins and was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna get us out of here, or hey, I need to do this, and showed her skill. Um,
And she does like she thinks of her son first later because she takes off with Bones and Bones is like, "Oh, Master Timon is nearby. Can I go help him?" And Nora's like, "Well, if he leaves, I'm in danger, but Timon's my priority. So, like, why wasn't that her priority earlier?
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that it's like, oh, well, she's that obsessed with Sloane. But, like,
But that's exactly, I was literally about to bring it up. There is this thing in D&D where you can write a character's weakness, the one like crux in your character. And Sloane was that for her the entire book. Like she was on
mhm,
this like revenge tour and was like, I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her. She did this to my husband
yeah,
and she's ruined our lives and da da da. Da. And I'm just like, because there was a point where her and who rescued her,
Jazz?
Jazz, yes, her and Jazz were like, okay, I saved you, we're good to go, but also Sloane's here. Like, I almost wanted to like, just punch Jazz in the freaking face. Like, why did you say anything? Like, just
Yeah,
get out of there, you know? And then she was just like, well, I hate Sloane. We have to finish this. I'm like, not right now, you don't. Like like you were like there tortured and like you could have just gotten out. Like
yeah,
plan ahead, get your head on straight. Nope, couldn't do it.
yeah. And I don't know if this is because newer Star Wars books haven't really talked about this, but the passage of time I think is like the biggest issue with these books. Like we're talking like a full like they taught are like months have passed
Yeah.
since Liberation Day. Like okay, but then like we speed through these little things and like I get like we've talked about it before like okay like this doesn't make that much sense that Vernestra and Wreath were like doing this so like some passage of time happened but I feel like the explicitness of oh yeah months have passed oh weeks have passed okay but like
You lose track.
yeah
It doesn't it feels like the passage of time is shown just to tell you, hey, time has passed, instead of
yeah
it being
like
a
hey
significance to the story.
yeah, it's like, "Hey, we know Legends didn't really tell you about the passage of time, so we're gonna tell you the
Yeah.
time is passing." Like, that's what it feels like, almost. Um, I really thought the writing was a lot better in this book, but I also
Mhm.
think it's because they were done like, Wendig was done building the
Yeah.
story, and so
Yeah.
he could finish it.
Mhm.
I don't think he did well at building stories. He did much better at finishing them.
I could
Like
agree with that. I could agree with that. Yeah.
so I and I know that he got let go from writing for Lucasfilm, but I would be curious to see him handle like a singular book. Um and see how he wrote in that regard versus a trilogy.
Well, like, and also, I would really be interested because Chuck Wendig has I've read comics from Chuck, and so
Yeah.
I think that he's done some excellent work in comics. But those characters are pre-established. They are
Mhm.
well-known characters. I would almost say, hey, give him a book that is with a already established character
Yeah.
and have him deal with that and see how that goes. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I would be curious. I don't think it's ever gonna happen because I think, especially after he got let go from what he said, I don't think he'd ever want to come back. So,
That's true. Yeah.
um, let's see. Yeah, Nora, I don't feel like she grew as a character at all. Maybe Snap did a little bit, because he handled his dad passing rather decently, I feel like.
Hmm.
Um, and the same thing with Bones. I was really sad about Bones. I did not know that was probably one thing I didn't know about this book was that Bones gets disintegrated.
Yeah.
Um, and I was not happy about that. I wanted to see Mr. Bones continue to live.
And I think it's with this, I think it's a story of like, hey, you can have like somewhat of a happy ending, but you're in the midst of war.
Hmm.
So there is casualties to that. And so like,
Yeah,
do you really want to kill off your humanoid characters, or you can just as easily kill off a side droid character that people have been attached to, you know?
yeah, and I think that makes sense. But like when like because Mr. Bones is one of the characters that was at like is a character Pat was it words he was in one of the DLC packs for Lego Skywalker Saga.
Yeah.
So the character's well known and he's loved. So I think it was a really cool addition.
Yeah. I really liked Mr. Bones. I think that I liked him more than I thought I would. Um Again, when he is first introduced in that first book, um he is absolutely psychotic. Uh and of course through
I got to do violence.
yeah. Uh but like over time, of course, you can't just always keep that up, and I feel like Chuck had that in mind. He's just like, okay, like I can only do so much with this character if he stays that way. So kind of let him kind of evolve in his own way.
Yeah.
He still has his moments. And I think he is what all droids tend to be when it comes to these stories, loyal to their people. And he showed that loyalty throughout the entire trilogy. Um, so yeah, Mr. Bones will be missed. Um, I actually would like to see if did they ever release a actual Lego set with Mr. Bones?
I don't did they? Maybe.
Because I think that would be actually pretty dope to kind of just have at my desk is a Mr. Bones Lego piece.
It doesn't look like it. Um, let's see. Here's the Wikipedia. Um, behind the scenes. Hey, I clicked. There you go.
Oh, it looks like people have done their own like custom Mr. Bones black suit.
Yeah.
That would sell. I think if a lot of people wouldn't get the context of it, but I
Yeah.
think that it would still have like some significant sales. It looks cool. I think that would be fun. But going back to the book, how did you feel about considering how the last novel, which was Life Debt, what did you think of the Han Solo Leia story that was kind of mixed in with this?
So I thought it was kind of cool getting her last little bit of pregnancy in this. And now yeah, now I find all the jokes weird a little bit. Be when the Princess and the Scoundrel got announced, and it was announced that Han and Leia had their honeymoon on the Galactic Star Cruiser. Like
Hmm.
that was like a shameless plug for that hotel. And people were like, "Well, now we know where Ben was conceived." No, Ben was conceived, and then like the night the rebellion blew up the Death Star, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Oh,
uh,
well, go ahead. Go ahead.
I I still feel a little weird with Han and Leia in this. Like, I feel like they just didn't know where it was gonna go. I
Yeah.
know this book in particular came out after The Force Awakens, but it also feels just like, okay, we need there to be some awkwardness with Han and Leia because they don't make it, basically.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I didn't really like that. Like, I feel like you just got married. Yes, things have been a little chaotic, but you should still like each other because I feel like, especially the moments where Wendig talks about Han missing Chewie. Like, I know he misses Chewie, but it just felt like that was a little more prevalent to
Hmm.
me than,
That's
hey, I'm about to be a dad.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It was one of the things that I picked up on very like much so. I was like, it feels weird that this lingers, but the Han and Leia stuff, it's just like it's nothing's really sticking for me there.
Yeah.
But another side of the story is the politics side, of course,
Yep.
with Mon Mothma. There
Yes.
was a very slimy Mon Mothma in this book, and more so for the greater good. Is the whole idea, because there's a moment where she's talking, like giving an announcement or whatever. I forgot exactly in what context, but she's like, I know I shouldn't say this. I know I shouldn't say this. I know I shouldn't say this. And she's like, you either do this or you're a what was the phrasing? Oh
You're
shoot.
just as, I think it was like something along the lines of like, you're just as bad as the rebellion
Basic
or the
or
empire.
the Empire, basically. And she even says, like, I feel like a dictator. I feel like Palpatine right now. Like, this
Hmm.
feels gross. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are so desperate in this time. Um, I kind of like that. Um, because it shows more that, like, in the midst of war, you are desperate. And
Yep.
I'm very curious. It's very ironic that we read this book in light of the books that
The
are about to
election.
come out uh next year. um
Yeah.
will we see this type of Mon Mothma there?
I think we could. Maybe not as much of like the machinations.
Hmm.
That like the public machinations, I
Yeah.
guess. I can definitely see her doing the back end dealings. You know, I didn't even think of this. Are we gonna get Mon Mothma's husband and daughter in those books?
Oh, that's true.
I didn't even
Yeah,
think about them.
that would be interesting.
Um, because it's just kind of curious. Thinking about it,
Hmm.
but I can definitely see like the on her own frustrations and like backroom dealings. Um, but nothing like this public.
Yeah.
Um, what did you think about like some of like not really the space battles, but the space battles? Because I don't really feel like there's a lot of space battles in this.
There
Um,
wasn't.
but I feel like the ship descriptions and like the space scenes were described well.
Yeah, I enjoy, especially since I haven't really gotten like really neck deep into like the Alphabet Squadron and all of those books. I think this is a small taste of that, and just kind of being like, hey, if you want more of this, there's all these
Yeah.
books out there in the Star Wars universe. So I really dig those. I always like even in Legends, I still have the uh oh shoot.
X-Wing, Jedi
Uh
Academy.
yeah, Jedi Academy had some really fun space battle stuff. I Jedi especially did. Um,
Yeah.
like I really like, and that's more so just because the main character is like a part of. Oh shoot, what squadron was he a part of?
Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, he was a part of Rogue Squadron. So yeah, it's just like so fun there. And so here, like I said, it gives you a small taste. I don't by no means do I think like, hey, if you want to see some space battles, you better
Yeah.
go run and get Aftermath, you know? Like I'm not gonna tell everybody that. But it's just like, hey, if you want a good battle scene in space, Aftermath has it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Um I'm trying to think of anything else. We do get Palpatine in here for a small tidbit,
Yeah.
kind of alluding to the future. Um,
Yes.
Nothing too hardcore there.
What
Um,
about Jar Jar?
I was gonna ask you about this. Okay, so I unfortunately, again, ADHD brain here.
Yes.
I will listen to a book and I'll get in the zone, and then all of a sudden you hear Jar Jar out of nowhere. And I'm like, hold on, wait a second, back up, rewind, replay. This is way past the original trilogy. Why am I hearing Jar Jar here? It stopped me dead in my tracks. I was walking through the warehouse at work, and I just stopped in the middle of one of the hallways of the warehouse, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
The interludes, I've not been a huge fan of. It feels just like, and
It feels
maybe
like a hard
this is,
stop.
yeah, it, but it also feels like, okay, especially like the Cobb fan stuff and like the, what, it's like the Sith, people. Um, it just feels like, okay, we could branch off but like here's a snippet into this character that like if we really like this, then
Hmm.
we could potentially do another book on them in the future, which the the Sith one is expanded on in Shadows of the Sith. Um they're pulled from the interludes here. Uh but the Jar Jar Binks one in particular is just something that I appreciated because like Windick basically interprets Jar Jar to be how he was supposed to be interpreted, which was for kids in the
Yeah.
prequel trilogy. Um and designing him as that clown element, like obviously like I don't like the feeling knowing what Jar Jar meant to me that he ends up as a clown,
Hmm.
but tying in like the okay, Jar Jar was like banished because he's the one who gave Palpatine. He was the one who called the vote for Palpatine to get extra powers and
Yeah.
attack the clones. And so punishing him for that, like even though that really wasn't his fault, like that makes sense. Um but like him bonding with the kid and like just being like, like I'll be whatever I want to be. Like my whole goal is to entertain right now. And then Mappo going, well, will you teach me how to be a clown? Because he's got like the damaged face and everything. Like, and he's like, so maybe I can hide behind that mask. And like they just get to go off together. And that's always what Jar Jar was meant to be, was like for the kids and like taking care of that age group in Star
Yeah.
Wars. So I really felt like that was just like that was a good moment that I appreciated.
I appreciated it as well. Again, like I said, uh it definitely caught my attention. For anybody who is audio listening for the book. Um and I think that like when you really think about it though, you look at the life of Jar Jar, you know, basically about to get punished by his people in episode 1, not knowing what his fate probably could have been, Qui-Gon Jinn saving his life, him getting able to be a part of Coruscant's politics and make a difference in the galaxy for as little as he could, and then having it all crumble because of the unfortunate manipulation of course, the Sith Lord, and then him like having to be a clown. Like, it's a sad story, but in the end, there's still like a weird happy ending for him. So
Yeah. So just to confirm, um, he's is the main villain of Shadow of the Sith. So she makes an appearance here, and I actually forgot she was in Life Debt. So yeah.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the interludes are just weird, but they do feel like an opening for other stories. So good thing, bad thing, yeah.
For me, the interludes, like again, I said they do feel like a hard stop. Um, because and it's more so for me. I've said this numerous times on multiple podcasts. I am not a huge fan of non-linear storytelling. It's just I'm not a fan of it. For me, if you could like the worst part of like the worst type of non-linear storytelling is showing a scene and then immediately after that scene saying 20 seconds ago and then showing the build up to what you just saw. It's like you could have just put that literally in front of the scene that I just read or watched, you know? So that's why it just kind of irks me a little bit. Of course, I know it's a style choice. It's whatever. Uh, but it'll always get to me. It's just that one little thing that's always going to be like, "Hey, you chose to do this, so I'm going to have to choose unfortunately to not like it."
Yeah.
But yeah, is there anything else that you want to touch up on here?
I think that's about it in regards to this book. I'm happy to put it away and probably never pick it up again.
Well, with that in mind, though, I do have to ask
Yes.
this trilogy as a trilogy with where we have, I guess, have we like have me and you talked a lot about books that I mean, I guess the only one would be uh-oh, is Katie gone or am I gone?
No, sorry. Um, there's a little gnat that has been flying around my monitors all day. Sorry.
Okay. Like, if you are not watching the YouTube channel, Katie literally had her hands up and her whole head was going back and forth as if like her screens were about to implode. Like there was some sort of like countdown to destruction here. Um,
Sorry, I'm like tracking you back. I'm trying to kill it.
but what I was gonna say is I don't think outside of Shadows of the Sith, I don't know if we've really touched on a lot of books that are kind of in this realm of the timeline. Correct?
Oh,
Oh, distracted. ADHD.
yes.
Oh, she
Got
got it. Yeah. All right.
it. Sorry. So, probably Shadow of the Sith is my favorite out of this era. A close second would be Lost Stars by Claudia Gray.
And that's one that
Um,
you've recommended to me. We haven't had a
yeah.
chance to put it in the schedule for us. Which is normally when I'm like, okay, I'm reading this book. But it has been on my radar, of course, because
Yeah.
it's also been one of those titles that, weirdly enough, and we haven't heard a damn thing about it since. But Lucasfilm announced, well, I don't even know if it was Lucasfilm directly,
People were
but there
talking
was
about an
the possibility of an
adaptation.
adaptation of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works. Um, and I don't know if it could continue as far as development, considering the two ends of the spectrum of where we're making movies right now. Literally at the end of the timeline and literally at the beginning of the timeline. So does it really make a whole
Or
lot of
in this
sense?
area with Mando.
Oh, well, that's true. On Hey, think that would actually make a whole lot of sense if we go Mando to end that and move forward with that book adaptation. Well, now movie
You
adaptation.
would be going backwards.
Would it be going backwards? Oh, I
This
thought it was
is
going to be the next thing. Okay, okay.
so Lost Stars takes place. I think it's like Empire Strikes Back to the end of Empire's End.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically like a Romeo Juliet love story
Okay.
the whole time. Um, so it takes place in this time frame. Mando is 4 years after the Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, never mind. I mean,
You're
but
welcome.
it well, the one thing that I will always have a problem with, but Lucasfilms seems to somehow find ways to do it. They're always finding ways to stay within the Skywalker saga, right? So
Yep,
if this is one more thing that they can do to stay within the Star Wars saga, it's probably going to happen. So who
for sure.
freaking knows? But with that, guys, that
I
is
do
our
just want to say one more thing before we close out.
yeah.
Jordan, who we talked about, Jordan Mason with Cinelinx,
Oh yes,
he has a
yes, yes.
he has a charity program called Real Outreach, where he sends underprivileged kids, mostly in group homes, um, to the movies. But he does a holiday fundraiser every year for movie themed gift baskets for kids in hospitals. Um, and they've already raised it's $35 per gift basket, and they've already raised enough money for 40 gift baskets, and that's the most that they've ever had out of this fundraiser for the holiday season. So if you guys are open to that, the Twitter account is Real Outreach, and it's real like a movie reel, so REEL Outreach is the username, and so you can go find that GoFundMe. But it's a really good thing that he does, bringing a little bit of holiday cheer, a little bit of the movies that we love and appreciate so much. Um, if you guys don't mind donating, that would be great. But another good opportunity is Geek versus Extra Life charity fundraiser for the hospitals in I don't know which part of Canada, but it's Canada. That fundraiser charity stream is this Saturday.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
24-hour stream, and I can't say what Clay's doing, but I'm on Team Taylor. So
Oh yeah. You didn't hear anything actually. I don't think it's been announced yet. So nope.
yeah, it's not been announced yet.
Nope, can't say
So
anything. I'm quiet, not saying anything. Don't want the geek verse snipers to come after me. I didn't say anything. It was Katie. Anyway,
but that is the trivia. Is at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, and it's on the Geekverse YouTube channel, which if you're here on YouTube with us, that is where you can find us. So yeah, come back on Saturday.
yeah, it's gonna be a
It's
lot of
always a
fun.
blast.
It's always a blast. I will say, the last 4 years, holy crap, it has been a very quick 4 years. I have I have gotten the chance to watch a majority of their stream, hang out with them. We are a family. They have been so great to us. They gave us this opportunity to be on their channel with the show, and
Mhm.
we're all nerds. We all love each other. We all love these IPs, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So just I'm just gonna say, be on the lookout for what I have in store for that trip. But with
um,
that,
and I'm just happy it's not during my football game. We have broken the streak of like 5 years during my football game.
because you
So
always end up coming like either late or did you show up to the first one?
I think I had a wedding. No, I was a part of it the first one, and then the second year I had a wedding.
That's right.
So I
That's right.
could
Yeah, yeah.
participate, but it was still during my football game. And then the past 2 years I've hosted Star Wars, and I think I was like, this is so Snell didn't tell me when I was going. And so I'm like sitting around for like 40 minutes waiting for Marvel and DC to finish. I'm like, I could be watching my football game right now, but instead, I don't know when I'm going on.
See,
So
this is why you should have some sort of live TV on your phone, and you should just be watching it while you're hosting.
the problem was, and I did have that the first year,
Uh-huh.
is I had my iPad and then I had my laptop. But then last year, everybody was so pissed off with me from my first year
Oh
questions.
yeah, because you decided, hey, I'm gonna try to make this as difficult as possible, trying to be freaking
They were
Dragon Con
off
over
the
here.
StarWars.com trivia. I didn't I didn't go watch the movies and go, let me pull this random fact out of my butt. No, I pulled it off the StarWars.com trivia. I gave it to Matt, and Matt got 7 out of 20 questions right that year. I was like, okay, 7 out of 20 for Matt, like this should be fine. No, one person got a question right that year.
Oh
So I
yeah,
was
that's right.
so nervous. I was so nervous the second year. I was like, wait, you want me back? And so I was so nervous. Like, I was literally shaking the whole time I was asking questions because I was like,
Oh,
are they going to be mad at me again? Are they going to be mad at me again? So,
very, very nice. Um, well, finally, with that, I'm over here like getting sleep out of my eyes, like trying to stay awake. Um, You can always find me at fanboyclay on Twitter. And just like Katie, I think I might have to put my account on private. If you do follow me or attempt to, I will thoroughly investigate your account to make sure you are real, not a bot. And we can chat about almost anything. I've stopped creating Marvel Snap content on Twitter because I do not want my images and my content used for AI. So I have stopped doing that, unfortunately. But it's still something that I love to play and I still love to talk about. So if you would like to join the Geekverse Discord, I am always in that Marvel Snap channel talking to everybody in there. So go do that. Also, Geekverse Discord is just always popping off about movies, video games, and all things nerdum. Um, there is going to be an announcement or tease, should I say, very soon with Ranger Alliance. Uh, I just in a couple days actually. So be on the lookout for that. Me, Joe, and Jake have something in store for everybody, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Uh, but other than that, that is it for me. Katie, what about you?
um, y'all, you can find me on most social media platforms. It's at Slice of Katie. Remember, I'm on private, and I've declined like 8 or 9 uh porn bots who've tried to follow me. So, um, yeah, but if you're real, I will accept you. I promise. Um, follow me on Instagram, Threads, because I'm using those platforms a little bit more. This Star Wars Alliance, you can follow on Twitter. It is at Star Wars Alliance without the A in the word. It's very important to forget it. Also, the hotline, you can text or leave us a voicemail. It's 830-538-4828. You can also shoot us an email. It is starwarsalliance@gmail.com. Remember, there is no A in the wars ever when you're looking up our podcasts, except on podcast listening platforms. I don't know why I said that. Sorry. I'm tired. All right,
Oh.
y'all. Have a good day or night, whatever time of day you're listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.